All right, Miss Carol, let's talk a little bit about Japanese maples. We love Japanese maples, don't we?
We do. They don't always love us.
Right.
And you better love them because
Yes.
sometimes they can cost a pretty penny.
Hey, they sure can.
Although they have come down in the last few years. I think there's more people producing them, and sometimes the price is less than I expect it to be when I pull up that tag. And let's talk about why they're that expensive.
Sure.
You know, to grow them, you have to have a grafted plant. You can take seeds off a Japanese maple and plant them and grow a little maple, and sometimes they're quite beautiful, a seed-grown maple. There's a lot of variability, but most often you're going to get a small green tree with great fall color, and I love them. And they're often more heat-tolerant and sun-tolerant, which can be a real issue with Japanese maples. So actually a few of my Japanese maples in my yard are seedlings, and they look quite good. But to get the weeping form that so many people want, or the lace leaf form, which, by the way, I think a red weeping lace leaf form has become so common that let's talk about some of the others maybe being more desirable. But if you want one like that, let's say Tamukayama, which is a very good form for the South, you would have to grow the seedling up for a couple of years and get a piece of scion wood off of that Tamukayama and then graft it onto that root stock. Usually it's a side veneer graft, and then once it's well rooted or well healed in there, they'll cut the green part off, and then the weeping plant has to develop. But that takes a while. It takes a good bit of time for that to grow into a sizable enough plant to go into the retail market.
Wow.
So if you're the producer, you've had to invest in either plants that were already grafted or grow the seedlings, then pay a skilled laborer to graft them. Then you have a lot of time invested.
Right.
How much time it spends in the nursery before it gets to the market is actually a big determiner of how much it costs. Big determinant.
Ah, okay.
So, because if you could have turned that space in your nursery over very quickly with something, but instead it took you a lot of years to get it to market. Tamukayama we mentioned being a good one, a good red lace leaf weeping form. And it's sort of become the standard to replace the old Crimson Queen was the more common red lace leaf weeping that did well in the South because the South, because of our heat, we have to be real careful, and there are literally probably thousands of Japanese maple cultivars now. The history of them goes way back, of course, Japanese maple, Asian.
Yeah.
And they've been selecting, there's a lot of genetic variability in the seedling rootstock, so they've been selecting for thousands of years and perpetuating those clones by grafting. So some of these go all the way back and have very complicated, hard to pronounce Japanese names. So do not trust my pronunciation. I'm from Mississippi, right? So you probably want to research whether I'm saying them properly or not. Would you agree with Tamukayama? Anybody?
I would agree.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And Crimson Queen we can say,
No, we can
right?
say that, right.
Okay, we can say that one. The old standard for an upright red would be Bloodgood. Bloodgood was always the one that did well in the South. But even it would often turn kind of greenish as the summer goes on. It loses the good, rich red tones that we like so much. So more have been coming on that are upright, big reds. I like one called Hefner's Red, which stays very dark and a good deep burgundy through the summer. Emperor One would be another one if you like the upright red forms. But there's a variety of them, and there's whole books devoted to them that you could research. I'm really fond of the green forms. I love a green Japanese maple, and to me the green ones seem to be a more tolerant, which makes sense if you think about it. The dark leaf is going to absorb more heat.
Right.
So the green leaves are going to survive our hot sun a little better. And just as far as that goes, most Japanese maples are going to prefer at least afternoon shade. They like some sunlight, or they won't keep the rich colors. They can get kind of wimpy and wispy and not get good rich colors if they're in full deep shade. So ideally morning sun, a few hours of morning sun, and then some afternoon shade will be your best sighting for color and growth and not getting sun scald.
Yes.
Because we start getting calls, don't we?
Yes.
Especially late in the summer when it gets really hot, and if they get a little bit drought stressed. So if you think about the fact that this is in its native setting a woodland maple, one of the things you can do to help avoid the sun scald and the drought stress is to really take care of that root zone. They're sort of like a dogwood in that. They want to have a lot of good air exchange. They want to be planted a little bit high good organic soil with a lot of porous, what I call the leafy duff, the woodland kind of thing that goes on, is going to help a whole lot. And be sure that you adequately water those things, especially when getting established. That's crucial. Planting a little bit high, we were just talking about the problems when you plant them a little bit deep and you get that soil that stays wet all the time. They're not going to like that. So if your drainage is a little iffy, I would recommend, put them up on a mound to help, and be sure that you mulch well over that root zone to keep those roots cool as well. It's going to help you out a lot.
Okay. Any other diseases or insect pests?
There are, in fact, the borers really like to attack the Japanese maples. The flat-headed borer is common, and luckily that is one that's easily treated with the systemics that you can put around the root zones. And the flat-headed borer is going to have the D-shaped hole as it exits, and the bark looks like it's sort of flaking off, and if you pull back you'll see some engraving. Then that one is more easily treated. But the ambrosia beetles are a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah, they're tough.
And they really love any thin-skinned tree, and the Japanese maples certainly qualify the thin-skinned bark trees. And that's going to be a small hole about the size of a pinhead, a little bit larger than that. Early, a lot of times when they're feeding, you'll see the toothpick-like frass extruding. But if it's windy or it rains, you'll see the sawdust or frass, we call it, the caterpillar poop, has fallen down around the base of that tree, and that's a good clue that it's going to be the ambrosia beetles. And that's a very difficult thing to treat. Usually you're not going to have success. It's not actually the beetle that kills, it's the fungus that the beetle introduces into the tree. So sometimes they'll make it, but often not. The best thing to do is to spray preventively. The other issue that they get, and this is one that I just can't find any solution for, and that is canker. They'll just up and get canker.
Yeah, cankers are tough.
Cankers are. Usually stressed trees are more prone to canker. If you keep that tree happy and healthy and vigorous and it's got the perfect siding and you don't let it get drought stressed, you're going to be more resistant to the canker. And the canker doesn't always kill it. Sometimes it'll kill a whole limb. Sometimes the tree acts like it wants to die and it doesn't. I had a sire yew, which is an upright lace leaf form, a green leaf form that's very heat tolerant, beautiful fall colors. We had them all over Mississippi State campus. And it got a huge case of canker. And I thought it was going to die, and I got tired of looking at the ugly thing, threw it out in the edge of the woodland, pulled it up and threw it out. And the joker the next year sprouted out.
How about that?
I dug a new hole and put it back in there, and it's like, yep, I'm going to live.
And it lived.
That's right. So, also, since they are grafted plants, be sure you monitor below the graft union and rub off any of the growth that comes out from below that graft union. Is another thing you need to know.
Okay. Wow. So Japanese maples are nice trees.
There are, and some good places to see them. The Memphis Botanic Garden has got a good collection, and then we have some local people if they want to get in touch with you who allow tours sometimes.
Okay, we could do that. Thanks for the information. That was good.
Sure.
All right. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. To find out more information on this topic, just click on the familyplotgarden.com link in the description.